So, how does this work? You talk first, I talk first.
You stole my victory, Bruce.
Nah, that thing would have stabbed you, and we'd have to, go to your funeral and stuff.
I wouldn't have died. I would have just been gone for a while.
Yeah, but you'd probably have to come back evil or something. Make us fight you all over again. So I just went ahead and killed Doomsday.
All I know is that was exhausting.
Yeah.
We covered so much ground, you'd almost have to go through it multiple times to feel like it made any sense.
Right?
Not for me. I pretty much just checked my email and then fought a monster. What were you guys doing the whole time?
We were sort of fighting each other.
Fighting is a loose term. I was feeling bad about saving people for some reason, and this guy went down a serious dark path.
I may have killed a bunch of guys.
No.
And bulldozed them with my Batmobile.
That is dark.
Yeah, but I feel bad about it now, so that makes it okay.
That doesn't seem right, but whatever. So what were you two fighting about?
It's so complicated. He thought I was going to kill humans, so he decided to kill me first rather than just talk to me about it.
You were going to kill Superman?
He was going to try. I sort of let him win.
Oh, I beg to differ. I seem to remember you lying on the ground crying out for your mother.
And what was her name again?
Martha. I'm sorry. I need a minute.
I am so confused.
Our moms have the same name.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 36 of the Pseudo Nerd Podcast for September 9th, 2016. I'm your podcast host, Josh Kiser, and joining me in Metropolis today, Josh the Dark Knight Haddix.
I'll say I'm actually in Gotham, but how's everybody doing?
And Kyle, the Daily Planet Hoagland.
I see what we did.
Baked in a buttery, flaky crust. What is up, guys? Sorry, I watched a YouTube video that I can't get out of my head right now.
Yeah, I heard of that video. I did not watch it personally, but I know what you're referring to.
Bunch of old people who can't say words. It's cute. It's cute and funny. And I was a Daily Planet once. That was a legit outfit.
That was a good opener. I enjoyed that one.
Thank you.
It's one of your finest.
Once in a while. It took me 36 episodes, but I got Haddix to giggle.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's just, is podcast over at that point?
I think we could just wrap it up, right?
Just pull a Costanza. See you guys later.
Every time Haddix giggles, an angel gets its wings.
A lot of angels getting their wings.
Absolutely.
Ain't that the truth?
You know who's not getting catches? Greg Olson. God damn it.
Yeah, it is football season. Kickoff tonight. We are recording it is currently the end of the first quarter. The Panthers, looking alright. The Broncos are actually looking okay, but if they just keep turning the ball over. So, we'll see how that goes. More importantly, Hoagie's fantasy team not looking so good right now. But coming up in today's podcast, we are entering our month-long topic, and after much debate, we are going to do our month on the DC movie universe. We did the Marvel one a couple months back, so we thought we would do the DC one, kind of compare and contrast the two, recap where we're at currently with the DC universe, the movies that have come out so far, and, talk all about that, kind of break it down.
Haddix is excited about this whole month. He's wearing his boner pants for this month.
Ugh, I'm not even actually. As a matter of fact, I'm not even wearing pants. I don't want anything getting in the way.
You know what? You don't want any rippage?
I don't want any friction. All right.
Because you're already pretty much at full staff.
Full salute, my man. Full salute.
I'll just say this right now. I do not like where this is going with DC. I'm fine with doing this. I'm excited for this whole month, but I feel like I'm going to be a Debbie Downer.
Kill the mood. I'm
going to be a Debbie Downer this whole month, man. I don't know. And there you have it. I'm out.
All right. Well, we'll see you later. So why don't we just get into it? And we'll start kind of just talking about the development of the DC movie universe. This started out really with the Man of Steel movie. Up until then, DC had made a couple bad movies. Previous Superman Returns movie with Brandon Routh that was supposed to be a sequel to Superman 2, which was made back in like the 70s, so it was already in a bad spot. Then they made the Green Lantern movie, which was pretty much one of the worst movies of all time.
It wasn't that bad.
Everybody.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I mean,
Worst of all time? I mean, like, is it like, God, what's that movie that you hated? Skyline? Is like Skyline bad?
no, I actually personally thought Green Lantern was all right. I thought it set up for a decent sequel. But
You just said it was one of the worst movies of all time.
Critically, it is, and most people think that way. I don't, on my own. I thought there was a lot of bad things about it, you know, the plot and the animation being two of them. But, you know, there was a couple good things. It had Ryan Reynolds.
I honestly think Ryan Reynolds could have been a great Green Lantern if they would have done it correctly. I'm kind of glad they messed up because he's an even better Deadpool, but I think he could have actually done a really good job in that role.
Yeah, I agree with that. But that was sort of, I think DC, after those kind of movies, they went and they had the Christopher Nolan, you know, Dark Knight trilogy, which were fantastic movies, but they were their own separate entity. There was no building off of that one, which I think we talked about in the past, that it could have, in many ways, handcuffed DC until the trilogy was done for them to incorporate Batman into a universe. And obviously you're not going to do a DC movie universe without Batman. I mean, he's one of their biggest.
And you can't really have two going on at the same time like that. You can't have two different Batmans going on at the same time. You know what I mean?
I think the whole difficult thing though is that I know there's been a lot of Batmans, and I know that it's just tough to establish I guess what is now we'll start moving towards the Justice League with, you know, one guy who's had one movie by himself, and then another guy who his first movie was the other guy's second movie. It just feels like there's not enough time yet to like really get into it. But then it's like, once again, it just feels so hurried because of, you know, all the success that we've seen with you know, other comic movies, you know, preferably or mainly Marvel. It's just weird. It's just really weird.
Yeah, so I mean, they basically had to wait for Man of Steel to start it out, and then, you know, Batman and Superman was kind of the movie where they're like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the Justice League. We're going to set up. We're going to kind of introduce all these characters, and it was like they were so far behind. They were like, we need to get all this out at once, and that's kind of where we're at now. I don't know. I don't know. I understand certain aspects of it. You know, I know that they see the popularity of it, of what Marvel's doing, and I think they thought, well, we gotta we need to get to that point, and we're behind. So,
well, the thing is, like, behind compared to what, or according to who? Like, I think the whole problem is, like, Marvel meticulously planned. Probably when they were talking about doing the Avengers, and they were getting the lineup correct, and, you know, getting everybody their movies, you know, having, you know, 2 Iron Man movies and already an established Captain America movie. Even what, 2? Was there 2 before they even came out with the Avengers? I remember. I can't remember the timeline, but
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I don't think there was.
But there was at least one standalone for Thor, for Captain America, and 2 Iron Mans.
Yes.
And then during that, I mean, you have Black Widow making appearances. I think the only person that was, you know, introduced was the Hulk. And once again, a rather minor role compared to the other Avengers. But everything was meticulously planned years and years. I mean, this was like 2007, right? The first movie, 2007, 2008. When the first Iron Man came out, and then it was just one by one, get these stories established, get us to recognize these people as the characters, and get us to like the characters. Instead, we went a long time with having a sour taste in our mouths, I think, overall. I don't speak for everybody, but I feel like Superman Returns was all hype and no delivery. And then you just got done with one of the probably the best, Batman movies to come out with the trilogy with Christian Bale. And now you're introducing a guy who a lot of people feel is not meant to be a superhero, character. And he's already done it before. And people said it was one of the worst things he could have done in Daredevil, which is Ben Affleck. So you already had people already going to shit on Batman versus Superman before anyone even got any teasing of it. And there's already been people who thought that that Cable was going to be okay, but nothing I think anybody was too impressed with. So yeah, it was not only was it rushed, but it was with I think with a cast so far, other than Wonder Woman, which I think so far everyone seems to be enjoying, that no one's invested in it. And because of that, you're not going to get too invested, I think, in overall the direction that they're going to take with Justice League.
Well, and I think one of the reasons why, and I agree that people aren't as, they like, I think Cavill's a great Superman. I think Affleck's a great Batman, but they're not generational type actors for the roles yet anyways. And I think one of the reasons is they make these characters very straightforward. There's not a lot of, the one thing they're definitely doing is they're not putting humor in these movies where they really let the actors shine like they do in the Marvel movies. So it's very, it's almost like they're saying their lines and they're doing it, but there's not a lot of, lightheartedness. You don't get to see the other side of the characters. And I think that's because they want these larger than life godlike characters, because that's kind of what Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman are. They're above and beyond all the others. Whereas with Marvel, they can let Tony Stark look more human, kind of act more down to earth, like people can relate to them a little bit more. And that might be part of the reason why they're not invested into these characters, is because they just seem much grander, but also blander.
Oh, look at this guy. Are they talking about doing a Flash movie by itself, or is that just going to be just coupled with the Justice League? Because that's one movie where I feel like they can get away with having some silliness. Because the Flash, the character in general, has always been a little bit more on the sarcastic, funnier side. Has a little bit more of a pip to his step, just to make a stupid joke there. But yeah, everybody, yeah, it was but everyone else is really, really, really serious, and it just takes the whole tone down. And if you're down for that, if you're excited for non-excitement as far as regular, dialogue, then this is movies for you. But I think that's going to be very boring for the general public.
And I don't even think that it needs to be hilarious by any means. Like it does, I think it can have a darker tone. It can have a more serious. The one thing I'll give it is Marvel movies never seem to get to the point where you're, while they're end of the world type situations, they never really feel that way. It always seems like it's too lighthearted, so you're never really all that concerned. It's much more cartoony in that effect, where I think they go for a much more realistic approach with the DC movies. So from that, I can agree with it, but there's you have to have a certain amount of humor or something in the movie to just kind of not make them look like a bunch of stiffs up there.
Yeah, I think that's something they realized after Batman vs. Superman. And I have a feeling that kind of what Hougie touched on, I think in the Justice League movie, there'll be more of that because there'll be characters that you could write that humor into without like you can't have Batman cracking jokes. You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't be right. So when you bring in the Justice League and you have a Flash character, and Green Lantern kind of has, not that he's like supposed to be in the movie, but if they write him in or some shit like that, he kind of has
or
that.
Even
like,
Green Arrow. I mean, Green Arrow's
yeah.
Depending on who wrote his story, but most of the Green Arrow that I've read, he's a pretty flamboyant kind of funny guy.
Yeah, he's a character. Yeah. So I mean, once you start getting these characters involved, you could start to add a little bit more lightheartedness to it. I honestly hope and think that they're going to pull Superman back when he comes back from the dead or whatever, however they write that whole story. I think that he is going to be that more of that American boy that we're used to, not as emo as he was in Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman type of thing. So I think that'll kind of lighten the tone up a little bit, but I do enjoy the little bit more seriousness that DC brings compared to Marvel. Although I do think it needs to be a little bit more lighthearted.
So you're okay with the direction right now, even with the speed, or do you think that do you think they didn't need to play catch up?
Well, I understand why they did. You have Marvel over here making all this money, all this success. You gotta get in while you can, type of deal. So I understand why they felt they needed to, and I also understand why they're like, oh, well, we don't want to sit here and completely copy off of Marvel and do a Superman movie, a Batman movie, a Wonder Woman movie, a Superman 2 movie, then do a Justice League movie, copy them exactly. You want to kind of try to do your own thing and be successful at it. So
I guess how much percent of that is them doing their own thing, and how much of it is them really not doing their own thing? But maybe they did want to spread out the content a little bit. But how much of that do you think is that they are going this quickly and going right to a Justice League movie sooner than maybe they even wanted to because of Marvel?
I think it's largely because of that. I think it's largely because of the success of Marvel that they decided to jump in. I think everyone loved Avengers and seeing all these heroes together in a movie. So DC's like, well, if we're going to start getting a whole bunch of people on our side, we got to do something similar to that. So yeah, I think that's largely why they're doing it. But I think a little bit of it is to try to do something different than Marvel as well. So we'll see how it works.
Yeah, one thing that, sticks out with this development, we've kind of been talking about it, is they make this Batman vs Superman movie and bring in all these characters, and they're going to rush into this Justice League movie without a whole lot of background on a lot of these guys. And that's, the one thing Marvel did right with the long-term development is you really got to, appreciate these characters, which, if the first time you see Flash and Cyborg and stuff is going to be in the Justice League movie, they really have to do a good job to make you get invested, make you care about these people. And I don't, they did okay with Wonder Woman, introducing her, so if they kind of do take that approach, then maybe it'll be okay. But even Batman at this point, he had the Batman vs Superman movie, but you really don't, because they try to cram so much into that movie, you don't even get much of a background for him in that movie. So it's like you're kind of going off what just as a person removed from that universe about Batman, about Flash, things like that. And it may not be fair to the movie, and it may not be fair to the viewer either to do that approach.
And it's doable because, Civil War was a great example. To me, the two coolest guys in the movie. Other than I liked Ant-Man, even though he already had his own movie. But Black Panther and Spider-Man, they did a good enough job to make you really like both of those characters. So moving forward, you don't need to do anything more. Wonder Woman, they introduced her really, really well, but I definitely agree. When the only person who's established themselves already cinematically is Superman, and now once again you've got Ben Affleck, who are saying and touting that they're not even going to see the movie if Ben Affleck is going to be Batman. They think he's going to bury the character and once again throwing the comparisons to Christian Bale, it was going to be a rough sale. And then now we're going to go into a Justice League movie where we have to introduce at least 2 more characters. I would assume 3 that are going to be. I mean, we've already seen glimpses of all 3 of them in Batman vs Superman in like small little like file videos. That I don't know how I wasn't a huge fan of that idea either.
They're little
I guess it was
videos, something.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, it was like 7 seconds long of just like little of a clip of them. So now we're going to have to introduce 3 very important characters and hope to God that they build them up enough. But both the DC movies that we consider now in this universe have been not very fast paced, have not been, I think, character driven. It's been story driven. And so if they're going to really sell us with these new characters, they need to make sure that they're produced well.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think even going story driven and not character driven is a bad thing per se. It's different. Marvel's definitely gone the other way. They want you to care about the characters and enjoy that, and the plot itself many times is very vanilla. So I can appreciate DC taking this approach, but the problem is they kind of rush the plot in many ways too, and it becomes a little bit of a jumbled mess there. So that's part of the reason why it hasn't been received as well as it should have been or should be.
Well, I think what they're betting on is we hope you like. Here's a good movie. We hope you like the characters. And I think that's the gamble is that they're gonna try and create a very compelling story, and then they just hope that the audience themselves by default just welcomes in Cyborg and Aquaman and the Flash and whoever else they want to throw in, because everyone else I think has either been accepted or liked. Like I said, I haven't 100% accepted Superman. He's okay, but I'm not like on board. And Affleck's fine, and I really like Wonder Woman. I think that character is going to do well. I think who they picked is really good. So now it comes down to the other 3 guys or 4 or wherever they decide to stop. Who's playing Aquaman again? Khal Drogo?
Yeah, Jason Momoa or whatever.
Which I always find. Growing up and just knowing who Aquaman is, that's such a strange choice of a person to be Aquaman.
I think they're changing I think they wanted to change his MO going into the movie.
Him.
Yeah.
That's fine. And then maybe that's needed.
Yeah, you don't want some blonde haired dude in an orange scaly outfit for the movies. You want this badass character that people are actually going to like.
But do we?
I honestly, from the little bit we've seen, I think he's gonna be a really cool Aquaman. So
at the very least, he's going to be a very different Aquaman,
which isn't a bad thing
that we're used to. No, it's not. It's not a bad thing. I think I would be. I think that would insult our intelligence a little bit if they went ahead with the orange scaly shirt,
exactly,
green pants. But I guess I'm a wait and see. Of the 3 that they're being introduced, I'm the most excited about seeing how they do Aquaman, just because Aquaman's got such a bad rep of just being like the bitch of the Justice League, even when in reality, anybody who actually like knows anything about Aquaman, the hero himself, he's actually a very capable person.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they handle his character going forward, but we'll see about that. Haddix, how about anything from you as far as, comparing their development to the Disney cycle that maybe we haven't touched on yet?
No, I think at the end of the day, we agree, and I think every moviegoer agrees that Marvel has done it better. That's not I don't really think that's up for much debate, but I think if they got their shit together, that DC could kind of pull it. They've made good enough money off of the few movies that have come out. I think they can pull it together and get some things going. So I'm not too worried about it just yet.
Well, Sam also mentioned that Marvel is doing it better. I mean, Marvel DC's yet to do it. I mean, they only have really in this universe only have 2 movies under their belt. So I mean, that's
maybe, my point.
Maybe we're prejudging this a little bit. Yeah, but it's just
we weren't talking like this after what Thor. Well, what was it? Iron Man and then Thor.
Yeah, I mean, you're not thinking long term at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Marvel's here and has done all this, you've got to have that on your mind. Like, okay, this is the bar. I mean, this is what the measuring.
I think it'll be interesting to see where the story goes in 3-4 movies from now. After and we'll kind of see what DC was able to do with it and all that stuff. So
once these characters get a little more established.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's the biggest criticism, and I think it's rightfully so, is just how they're trying to just, we need to get here, and instead of just saying like, hey, you know what, they're doing their thing, let's do our thing, we'll eventually get there. And instead of just like, we're just going to do this, people love these characters, we don't need background stories, like, everybody knows who Batman is, who, Superman is.
I'll give them the Batman Superman thing. Like, I honestly didn't need an origin story Batman movie to come out. And I honestly don't know if the layman viewer wanted necessarily to see it with the Batman trilogy that just came out.
I mean, with all the Batman movies, I mean, that's definitely one. It's like Spider-Man. Like, you don't need another Spider-Man reboot. There's been so many Spider-Man reboots at this point. Like, you don't need to have a Spider-Man origin story at this point.
Yeah.
Which is why it was nice that Marvel has like kind of glossed over his beginning, he has his powers now. Like, that is what it is.
Yeah, they introduced him where he just a few months ago had already gotten his powers. So he was new to his powers, but he was only
fine. I'm fine with him being new to his powers, but we don't need to see Uncle Ben die for the 100th time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I want to see a little more. Let me see a little more of that Aunt May, if you're asking me.
Yeah, no doubt.
No diggity.
So, I guess, I don't know, is there anything else that you guys can think of that, with the Disney's Marvels that, Disney Marvel Universe compared to DC Universe that you want to compare the two, or even maybe things that DC's done differently that you like better that we haven't mentioned? Anything else that sticks out in your mind?
I mean, I just wish that there'd be more. Is the Justice League movie the next thing coming out? Right?
Yes.
It's
not.
Well, Wonder Woman is.
Wonder Woman. Okay, so Wonder Woman and then Justice League.
Yeah.
So that means we're going to have 3 standalones. Well, I mean, I guess Batfleck didn't get his own movie per se. He's definitely going to be the chosen leader of the Justice League while Superman's quote unquote dead, I guess. So as far as comparison, we had Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and that was it, right? I mean, we had a second Iron Man movie, but as far as characters,
yeah.
And then we had Scarlett Johansson peppered in to a couple things.
Which technically we had Superman
Pepper Potts peppered in as well.
Pepper Potts. I was sitting there like, God damn it! I just set up.
We technically have had 3 solo movies. We'll have 3 solo movies going into. Well, I guess Batman vs Superman is not a solo movie. Whatever. I honestly don't think it's horrible. I don't think what DC has done is horrible. Has it been perfect? No. Could they have maybe done things a little bit better? Yeah. But I mean, I think Marvel could have done things a little bit better.
They could have definitely done things better.
I mean, I think Marvel could have done things better too if they
I'm sure, but I think
could go back and do things, but
sure, but I think DC definitely could have handled things a lot better at this point.
So then what's the difference in the hype then? So we have when Avengers, we knew Avengers was coming out. I feel like there was already hype in it with the combination of, first of all, we wanted to see, Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr., together and,
I think that's a big part of it right there is it had really never been done before where you're bringing in all these major players from different movies and throwing them all into one movie together like that. Like, okay, this is cool. Like, let's see all this happen. You never had that before. There was never this connected universe between movies where it's like, lack of a better description of like, I can't even think of something. Like if there was if that Nicolas Cage Superman movie got made back in the late 90s, if him and like Val Kilmer's Batman like had a movie together, like that would have been the closest at that point. And they were just, that didn't even, that's not even close to happening either. But I'm saying like, that's the kind of thing. Like it was like, we have all these big movies, and we're just going to throw all the characters into one movie together. So, I mean, that's a lot of hype. So now you almost expect it at this point because of it. So you're like, oh, I can't wait for this Justice League movie. And that was like when Man of Steel had come out. There was nothing else at this point. We didn't have a Batman. We didn't have nothing. And people were already talking about like, well, let's see how we can get all these characters together. So, Marvel definitely kind of pioneered it in many ways as far as to the big screen. And I think that was the hype there. Excuse me, where I don't know about you guys, but I'm not hyped for Justice League at this point. I know.
No, because everyone had their own team. Like, even before the Justice League, I keep mixing things up. Before the Avengers, because we had all these standalone movies, you had, people like, Thor fans, and you had people who enjoy the Thor movies. You had your Iron Man, and you had your Captain America shippers. So you had all these diverse groups that really loved all these movies, but may have been like a bigger fan of one over the other. And then when you found out all of them are going to be in this movie, that was all the hype you needed. Like, that was it. Like, you sold us already on the idea of, okay, all of these were, blockbusters. They're all huge success movies. You might say others did better than others, but for the most part, none of them were flops. And the difference with DC is that you brought out Man of Steel, which was, I would say, receptive at best, but it wasn't anything, jaw dropping. And I think that just happens with a Superman movie. I feel like we know what to expect with a Superman movie. We didn't know what to expect with an Iron Man movie or a Captain America movie.
That's a fair point.
And so we're walking into, here's another, and Batman's going to be the same thing. We just got done. There's got to be some existence of maybe cinematic fatigue of just getting done watching a trilogy about probably the best, portrayal of Batman that I think any of us have remembered. And so now we're going to move on from that rather quickly. And not only are we not giving Ben Affleck his own movie, not only are we not giving Wonder Woman her own movie until she was introduced. So we have one guy who has one movie, and then the second movie is basically Man of Steel 2 starring Batman and Wonder Woman. So there's no hype yet. Like, there's nothing that sold us a whole lot on Batman versus Superman other than the title itself. But I think a lot of people were a little scared. I think some people were excited, but I think there was a lot of reservation with that movie. And now that the movie has come out, and for the most part, once again, didn't knock it out of the park, but it was an okay movie. And now we're going to go from having two movies now that have been, it was okay. And now we're going to go into the Avengers movies, or God damn it, the Justice League movies, and Wonder Woman. And it's just like, where's the excitement? And it's like, it's not organic. So now it's got to be hyped by DC, and I just don't think they're going to do a great job with it.
So, I mean, and Haddix, maybe you can weigh in on this. For me, one of the big things, once Avengers came out, I don't know, when did they introduce Thanos for the first time? Was it at the end of the first Avengers? Was it the Thor movie?
Avengers movie. I think it was the Avengers.
Okay, so like all of a sudden now you know that there's like this giant, villain waiting in the mix that they're still building up. They've been building up for 7-8 movies now. DC's like, hey, we're going to have a Justice League movie 2 movies from now. They're going to have a Justice League movie. And at this point, like, you got a glimpse of who it could be at the end of, Batman vs. Superman. You assume it's Darkseid at this point. But I don't know about you. I'm not... That build-up for me is so minimal that I'm not pumped for it at this point. I don't know, Haddix, do you agree with that? Do you...
Well, I don't think Darkseid's going to be the bad guy in Justice League. I think they're going to stick to that kind of looming presence for a little while. I think that, and I'm probably I probably do this as well, but I think a lot of times people get stuck on Marvel did it so well. Why isn't DC just doing it the same way Marvel did? To whereas let DC do it their way and let's see how it turns up later. I mean, yeah, was Batman vs. Superman as good as it could have been? No. But that doesn't mean that Justice League's not going to be good or that they're not going to do a really good storyline in Justice League that kind of draws you and you're like, oh wow, that was really good. Instead of kind of going in with all these like, oh, I don't think this movie's going to be good, or oh, this is already going to suck because they're introducing all these characters too fast. You know what I mean? Something like that. So I'm not worried about it. I'm excited for it, but I mean, I'd be excited for it anyway. I don't think that just because they're not doing it the way Marvel did it means that it's not going to be good, or the whole universe itself isn't going to be good. Once all these characters are introduced.
And I'm not saying that that's the case either. I'm just saying personally, and I love these characters. I want these movies to be successful. Superman's my favorite comic book character by far. I want to see DC succeed. For me, I'm not taking sides in this. More good comic book movies, the better, as far as I'm concerned. But I'm just saying, for Justice League at this point, I'm not hyped for it. Now that said, maybe because of the way Marvel handled things, where they did all this build up, like that's what I'm expecting from DC, and I shouldn't. I guess that's a little unfair to me. Like, you know what? Justice League could be its own independent movie with these characters, and they can come in and introduce the villain in that movie and make a phenomenal movie in that regard. So I think it's just the blueprint that Marvel has laid out that you assume is just going to be copied, because in some ways it has been with DC, that I guess I just assume that's how it is going to be going forward, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was touching on.
If you're saying that Darkseid is not going to be what can be the looming presence, or you think that it's not, so who do you see then? So are we talking Jared Leto and?
Well, see, that's the thing. You don't know. I mean, I think that it wouldn't shock me if Darkseid is the bad guy. So there's been a lot of iterations of Justice League comics, and a few of the times the bad guy has been Darkseid. That it was this evil that we needed all these superheroes to come together to fight. So it makes sense that you have to join all these guys up. But the deleted scene in Batman vs Superman where Lex Luthor's talking to somebody is like one of Darkseid's generals. So I could see him being the bad guy in the movie.
And didn't we see the Omega symbol in? I
mean, it's definitely Darkseid is actually, as a matter of fact, I think Thanos was created after Darkseid was created. I don't know if that's 100% true. We don't fact check here, but
we don't really check anything.
We just spitball bullshit the whole time.
But I'm pretty sure Thanos was created after Darkseid in the comic, because Darkseid was such a cool bad guy. Everybody loved it. Thanos was kind of his version of it. So, I mean, he's definitely kind of the ultimate bad guy for the Justice League. So he's definitely going to be talked about. I think they're definitely going to pull that kind of recipe from Marvel, having this big bad guy. Or, maybe he is the bad guy in Justice League, but they don't kill him. They kind of just push him back. So he's still kind of that looming presence, you know what I mean? Something like that. I'm excited. I think DC knows what they're doing. The Jeff Jones, however the fuck you say his name, they made him like more involved with the movies after Batman vs Superman, and he's the one that kind of oversees all the comics. So I think he's going to kind of tighten the reins around there, get some things pulled together. I honestly have high hopes for Wonder Woman and then for Justice League.
Well, and you might be right, and I hope so too. I actually do think the Wonder Woman movie is going to be good. Justice League, I'm still uncertain about. Real quick, Thanos, first appearance was in 1973, Darkseid 1970. So you were in fact correct.
Boom. There you have it.
Once again, that makes sense. Like, why would you need a bunch of godlike people to take care of some humans? They did have like I think it was called like the Injustice League, for lack of a better name.
Yeah.
Where it was like Luthor and the Joker and a couple other people. Then you had like Gorilla Grodd and like those jabronis. But at the same time, it just seemed like I can only imagine really two people that can really be the all encompassing bad guy. And that would be like Darkseid or like Brainiac. But other than that, I feel like everybody else is a you just dust that off your shoulder if you're Superman.
But that would be another cool thing for DC to do first, is
while Superman's out.
Have the bad guys be a group of the whatever they've been called, like multiple things, the Legion of Doom, I think, not the wrestlers, but the actual Legion of Doom or whatever the fuck. It's been called many things, but it's like the main villain of each superhero. And that's something that that Marvel hasn't done yet. Marvel always has one bad guy, and it's everyone fighting the one bad guy, and so that would be a clever thing for DC to do first.
That's a great idea. Because especially to the point you guys were both making, like if Superman's down for the count for the first Justice League movie, maybe it is a bunch of villains that are, not larger than life. They're more human aspect kind of thing. Maybe Brainiac's there, but I don't know. And then kind of lead in and set up, because it's a two-parter. Maybe the second part, by the end of the first part, you realize there's actually a much bigger villain looming in the distance, and that's when they're like, we really need to get Superman back. Something like that would be a cool way. Who knows if that's the route they're going to go or not, but I do think that's an interesting thing, because I do think they need to be fresh, because Haddix, you and I were kind of talking about this earlier today, but eventually Marvel is doing the same thing over and over, and it's working because the characters are enjoyable, but the story and stuff, it's all just kind of.
You're saying basically it's peaked. The story is kind of peaked until Thanos shows up. I think anything that's going to come out now is just going to be another Marvel movie.
Right, which is fine. It's a formula that works, but eventually we're going to get bored of that. And if they don't alter it, then we're going to get to this where like, oh, this movie, it reminded me of Ant-Man, which reminded me of Thor, which reminded me of Iron Man. They're all kind of the same thing over and over. And eventually it's got to change, where DC could be like, you know what? We've already got a more serious tone. Why don't we make these movies, these villains, more realistic, but not in a Christopher Nolan realistic where like it can't have any alien aspect to it or anything like that. But like maybe people, are dead. Maybe it's a little more, gruesome. Maybe it just feels more real and not. You're not laughing, and then all of a sudden, there's the villain of that, but he'll be caught soon enough, kind of thing. And I feel like that's the formula at this point.
Yeah, I think they have set that serious tone where they could do more edge and Christian-y things. You know what I mean? Where you show the Joker brutally kill. Well, not show it, but like he brutally kills people. You know what I mean? Like things like that where the Marvel Universe doesn't really touch on that stuff. I mean, obviously people have died in the movies and stuff, but they don't ever really show it. They don't ever really show bloodshed.
It feels, and it's fine, it feels much like a comic book when you're watching those movies. Yeah. It's very lighthearted. It's fun action, but not intense action. And I think there's a difference there. And I think DC has the way to say, you know what, like, let's make this dark. Let's make this gritty kind of thing. It may, let's do our own thing. And it'll, if they do it right, they could be successful.
So I don't think we brought this up yet, and I thought I'd ask it, though. Right now we have confirmation of, obviously, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Cyborg, Aquaman. Do you think it's a good idea to just leave it at that, to being like the main players, or do you think
I think they expand.
Like I said, there's way too many very impactful heroes. I said Green Lantern comes to mind. Fucking,
I think Martian Manhunter will be
Martian Manhunter
at some point.
Yeah,
so
go ahead, Haddix.
I think the Green Lantern gets involved possibly in this movie. If not, it would extend the universe into outer space at some point, and then you could start doing stuff with like Hawkgirl and Hawkman. Bring them into, like, you can go. It's like how Marvel's doing.
Then how many movies do you need? How many movies do you see this going? It seems like I want this to happen. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see them bring back Green Lantern and Green Arrow and stuff like that. That'd be great. But then again, Green Arrow's got his own show. Maybe that's where that stays. Just keep it where that is. But at the same time, like, how many movies do you need?
Flash has his own show too. So I mean, there's definitely multiple shows in the DC television thing, which they're doing a great job with. The television shows. Yeah, well, they're doing a decent job with, depending on the show now. But I think, I mean, they could go as long as they want. I mean, you look at what Marvel's been doing. They've been making, 2 or 3 movies a year for the last...
I think it's 2. I think they always want to do 2 movies, right? Every year.
That could be it.
Is their goal.
So, I mean, DC could definitely do that, but I don't think, like you guys are talking about Green Arrow or Martian and Manhunter, things like that, I don't think they need to bring those... I mean, I'd like to see them eventually, but don't make the same mistake you made in Batman vs. Superman and try to introduce 5 more heroes right at the beginning of Justice League, and then it's like, now we've got 6 characters, you don't have any backstory, any of them, you're just trying to, like, catch up on what's going on with all of them, and it becomes another rushed clusterfuck. Like, I think
that's why Marvel did such a good job with it, is that you had these standalone movies, but you didn't just have Iron Man. You had Black Widow show up time to time, and you had, every one of them had another important character that it wasn't about them, but you established them. You've established that's who they are. You've made us understand that they are important. Winter Soldier and all those other guys. You were able to establish that before deciding, hey, let's make this bigger movie with everybody in it. And obviously then they did Civil War as well. But once again, like we said before, in Civil War, the only guys they had to really introduce was Black Panther and Spider-Man. And they did a really good job with that because they really didn't need to hit hard the other 50, superheroes that were in that movie. So yeah, my whole thing is this. I think it's important to include those other ones. I think they're important enough to be put in. But then how many movies do you need? And when, like you were saying, you don't want every single movie to introduce 5 people. And then all you're doing is watering down the character development of 5 people. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, they need to treat it, if they're going to introduce new characters, treat it like they introduced Wonder Woman and not how they introduced Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg. And hopefully that's how they go forward with it. Because that's one of the biggest things that I think people have criticized them for, is how rushed it's felt, and I think that's a fair criticism. I don't know, is there anything that you guys would do differently that we haven't talked about yet with this development so far? Because I'm trying to avoid us talking too much about the future, because that will be a podcast we have going forward here.
Well, I'll talk about the past then. I wish they could have gotten a time capsule and been able to be on even footing. I think we talked about this back when we were talking about Batman versus Superman.
Flew around the world a few times.
He goes backwards. Wasn't that an episode or a movie at some point?
That was in one of the movies, yeah.
The problem was, and I think we talked about this a bit in I think the Batman versus Superman review, was maybe they had to wait. I think Haddix mentioned this. They had to wait for the trilogy to be over for DC to really put, kind of sow the seeds of creating this. Basically the answer to the Marvel universe. So they're already behind, and maybe if they thought the bigger picture, or didn't think that, oh my God, that they didn't expect Marvel to do as well as they are doing, then now you're the company that's playing catch up. If everybody started in 2007 with the same idea of, hey, let's go head to head with Marvel, and they have the Avengers and we have the Justice League. Let's see who wins out in the box office. That would have been great if I think they weren't aware. I think that would have been great if they knew that ahead of time, but because of waiting for, signing contracts and giving it some time you can't just make another Batman movie, a year after the last Batman movie. It's going to be a completely different Batman. Just doesn't make sense. No one would be interested in that. So yeah, that's the one thing I would change, is that I wish that maybe they thought the same way as Marvel, I guess, and went ahead with doing something more of a Justice League idea than another Batman trilogy. But then again, I enjoy the Batman trilogy, so I guess
that's
what do you
the
choose?
Problem is you were in the middle of the Batman trilogy for Nolan when Iron Man came out, so they were already stuck with that. There was no, and Nolan pretty much made it clear he wasn't going to connect his universe with anything else.
And it's not even that they were. It's stuck in a good way. I mean, they were making bank with that trilogy. It's just unfortunate that DC feels like. I mean, this is just us speaking as fans on the outside, but it definitely, the writing's on the wall. It just feels like that they're rushed. The pressure's on them, and I feel like if they just didn't. So I guess then the thing I would change is I wish DC didn't feel like they were rushed. I don't think anybody here, once again, just the three of us, I don't think any of us here are saying we need to have a Justice League movie next year. Like, I don't think that's 100% necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying that.
Haddix has been clamoring for a Batman Superman movie since he saw
that's
Batman
amazing.
Returns back in the 90s.
Yeah.
So.
And that's fine. And that I'm fine with that. But I'm saying that I don't think a Justice League movie needed to happen until I think we at least have a couple characters being introduced. And I don't know what they're going to do with Wonder Woman. Maybe they do it. Maybe Wonder Woman, when they had that movie, that's when you were going to be introduced to Aquaman and, have a better story and understanding of Aquaman, and then give a couple nods to Flash and Cyborg. But I feel like it's almost like give us one more movie. Give us one more movie after Wonder Woman. And then let's go with the Justice League with everybody that's going to be in that movie established. We like them. The movie was good. I can't wait to have them all in one movie. That was the same feeling that we felt in the Avengers, and that feeling is not there with DC with the Justice League. And I think that's what's missing. It's that spark of excitement of people that we've already watched and enjoyed.
It's fair. Haddix, anything that you would have done differently, or things that you appreciate that maybe DC has done that, maybe Marvel didn't take the same approach or something, and you like the way they handled it, or anything like that?
My only, don't get me wrong, I don't think all of the characters are perfectly portrayed how I would like to see them. Like, the Batman, how they're portraying Batman, although I still like it. But the only thing I wish they would stray away from is making Superman this down in the dumps character. I wish that, even with a more serious tone, I'm okay with that. I wish they made him more of that lighthearted, no matter how many people shit on him or whatever, he's still like, your basic hero, your original hero.
The Boy Scout.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I am okay. I feel like people are like, oh, it's so boring when he's the Boy Scout, and that's probably why they're trying to do this. But I mean, I wish they would go back to that. I wish, like, throughout Man of Steel, they could have left Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman exactly how it is. But I wish, instead of making Superman like real, like, doubting himself and everybody, that he was just vigilant and like, you know what, that's okay. I'm gonna save these people. Yeah, that's my only little gripe. I wish that they weren't so worried about people thinking the Boy Scout is overplayed or out, no one wants it or whatever.
But that's what a lot of jaded people feel, though, that I think everyone's also heard, if you're wrestling fans, they compare like John Cena to Superman because they feel like it's a type of character that there's no stakes involved.
I would have always compared John Cena to the Invisible Woman.
Why? Because you can't see him?
There you go. Thank you.
He got it. Good job. But I mean, I think you understand where people have been complaining about that. Is like, you can't even root for Superman because it feels like he's gonna win. There's no like, oh, but what if? Like, it's just like Superman always wins. And I know he's dead right now, but he's coming back and he's gonna be better than ever. And that's like I think that's what's been the problem sometimes with Superman movies. The character's great. Him in a comic book is great. Him in Superman in a movie is tough to accept sometimes, because you go in just feeling like this guy's invincible. Like, yeah, he might go through some doubts and he might have his inner turmoils and stuff, but we know that at the end of the day, what the hell? Who's going to stop him? What is there in this world that is going to be able to go up against Superman? And history has told us basically nothing.
Right. And I mean, that's why I think they look for these other routes is because if they treated Superman like it was a Marvel movie, it would be so boring because it's like, well, there's that guy's dead. It's just funny. Oh, nobody can hurt him. And here, I
think that's one of the reasons why Vision's not that. Sorry, that's one of the reasons why I think Vision's kind of like a boring character to me, because he's the closest thing to the Avengers of a kind of like a Superman type of person, where he just feels like, I feel like he's just like in all honesty, an unstoppable force. He can, it seems like anyways, if Vision really gave a damn, could fry the whole planet if he wanted to. But once again, like, there's no stakes with the Vision other than I think he shows a lot of restraint when he does things. So then I think he seems weak because he doesn't want to go all out with his powers. But when you are basically powered by an Infinity Stone, which is capable of destroying worlds, you kind of create this Superman character, and by far he's the person I think people root for the least, because everybody else, there is something that could end their life. Like, legitimately, they're human beings, almost, basically all of them, and death is a real thing for them. And I don't feel that way about Vision. I don't feel that way about Superman.
Yeah, that's fair. We're kind of wrapping things up here. Last thoughts. Anything we haven't touched base on, Haddix, about the development so far that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we kind of touched it all. Not as good as Marvel, but high hopes for the future. At least I do, anyway.
Hougie, any last thoughts?
I'm a wait and see person. I know I definitely sounded like I'm kind of poo-pooing all over this, but it's not coming off the gates well at all. As far as, once again, this is comparative to Marvel. It's not even I can't even compare it even a little bit to Marvel, because it was just, everything has been so exciting. Every single new movie that comes out, you're excited. I feel like every movie or at least the 2 movies anyways, that's come out for this, I feel like people are walking on eggshells. I think the development side of it, they're afraid of making a bad movie than being excited about creating a good movie. And they want to get the exception, where I feel like Marvel has gone on a different route of saying that they're very confident in what they could do with it. They think that the characters will drive people in and the story will write itself. And people have gravitated towards that. I think DC's got a small sliver of fear as far as playing second fiddle to their rival.
They just need to stop sniffing Scarecrow's fear gas, right?
Oh, that was almost good till you mess it up at the end.
Yeah.
As for me, I'm just going to say this. I think they've casted well. I like the actors in the roles they are playing. I just think that the script needs to help embrace them more and let them do their thing. I'm not down on it. I will continue to hope that the next one is the best one, and we'll see. But they definitely need to tweak it, because what they've done so far is not what they need. They need to change it. It's not working quite the way they need. So hopefully then, Wonder Woman movie, Justice League going forward, those are good. And we will talk about all of that here in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, we will discuss Suicide Squad next week. We're going to review the movie, so if you're like myself and have not seen it yet, go watch it. From Central City to Star City, I'm Josh Kiser. He is Josh Haddix. He is Kyle Hoagland, and we will see you guys next time.
Have a good Friday.
Did you forget? Jesus. See ya.